Unnaturally, I'll leave it how I think they'd like to view me. A fake coincidence, a purposeful accident. Unnaturally, I'll present them with personality. Yes, I'll serve it with champagne. Prove that you care. Thank God you care. Unnaturally. Too late. The champagne is just so distracting. I guess I'll glance at the aftermath, but please spare me of the occasion. Let it be known that I also know unnaturally. I want you Thank you very much, everybody.
But the talk slurred as if you couldn't. Not above the din from the gantry, weird and normal and full of football. And when it was the thin flower hung itself upside down, swinging like Jesus cut half loose, I couldn't say, I wouldn't say. However, on this, the spurning of the second day, it left me. Try being grateful for pastries and railroads it appeared to offer, twisting crisp packets into bow ties and sneezing out of existence. Tilted in an avalanche of bilge scum, that same deciduous avenue I go to weep is practicing its many alleluias. Alleluia for forgetting quick. Alleluia for the corner turned. Alleluia for the tears that edge you through until the pain is just a dream of teeth. The gory waiter explains again that death is simply the best garnish for life. Well, isn't it funny, I say, clever bastard, that in this knife edge of a world among the carcinogens and lily gatherers, the motherless piping angels with the blinds drawn down, there is enough room for you and I to spend our thumping glory on love. Thank you very much.
Thank you. In Liverpool, the kids. In Liverpool, the kids paint eggs and sit on doorsteps. In threes, get rowdy and threaten you with low cunning. Nan often comes home scooping seagulls, screaming armfuls, and sends the lot to bed, confiscating their jewels. In Liverpool, construction workers break for long lunches at prosperous modernist cafes and drink Italian lagers. They pay with ancient currency, constantly call their mothers, and don't return to work until the following Tuesday. Thank you.
The conditions upon which contemporary democracy rests is no longer within the hands of the liberal bourgeois. Rather, it seems, the cradles of democracy now reside within the hands of a few tyrannical leaders. Leaders who hold our natural environment in contempt, those who undermine and suppress those most vulnerable, and those who engage in foreign conflict to sustain the accumulation of capital and its ability to flow freely. Leadership style and political administration has proven effective as the global shift towards right-wing thought and pure capitalism increases. Hijacking and riding reactionary and populist waves, leaders of the center-right have become receptive and incorporative of political expressions that can be seen as an act of anti-establishment sentiment, to only further legitimize and hegemonize their cultural assertions against an economic backdrop that is undoubtedly defined by exploitation and cruelty. Capitalism, whilst intrinsically intertwined into the idea of a bourgeois minority against a proletarian majority, transcends the comprehension of a binarized global perspective. Whilst I will not go into detail here, paramount to the vestiges of capitalism historically, as today, is its necessity to subjugate Wunksen, those who are racialized, those whose sexuality do not subscribe to notions of heterocisnormativity, and those who are disabled. The ongoing legacy of capitalism is its success in the creation of chaos and division, cultural insensitivities, and the constructing of individuals defined wholly by non-determinate measures. As capital concentrates within nation-states, it is the response by the capitalist state to naturally develop borders, and the defensiveness of wealth is deemed sharing with those of their own nation.
But I've been working on an impression of Michael Caine. You guys are going to love it. Okay, you ready? Okay, here we go. This is my impression of Michael Caine. Hang on. He seems like he'd be a fun guy to hang around with, but you won't want to get on the wrong side of him. That's just my impression. But I do a cover of a Morrissey song. Do you guys remember that Morrissey song that he did for the England team at the World Cup a few years ago? Do you remember that? No, I'd be surprised if you do. I've made it up for comedy. But oh shit! Look at this. That's they paid you. Oh, I thought you were just a kind audience member. This is my what. This is Morrissey's song for the England team at the World Cup a couple of years ago. Hope you enjoy. Can you hear that all right? A ball thuds down off the crossbar. The rain, it comes in rivulets down the battered shin guard of the last defender. Oh, England, 3 lions can never hide the shame. A goalkeeper spits down, tremulously framed in a lattice vial. He says, they've hit me, they've hurt me, I want to die. Oh, England, football's never coming home. It's my home, not their home, and welcome no more. Oh, there is a team and they always go out. There is a team and they always go out. Oh. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. You've got a great night ahead of you. After I go off, you've been an audience. You have. You've been an audience.
Watch my eyes glass over. I'm distant and you're older, but your smile to this beholder makes the summer such in my heart go out and go dark, and I hate you. Trying out my insides, waiting for your tragic decline, but I need you to pick me, to bruise me and to choose me on this crooked set I'm in. Go now. Can't you see that I'm tired of all your half-life? These games and these warm shots of counting the days, having to be late on. At the end of every test, a dream of love, a dream of sex, and a waiting cardiac arrest. I need you to hold me, hold me. Saying it out for 7, I just don't know if I could. Hold on and love you. I just let me go now. Can't you see that I'm tired of all your half-lives? These games and these works, having to be laid on the way, and I will show you how the touch of leg against leg explode. Supposed to be. I've been waiting all my life. I've been waiting all my life just to accept what you're supposed to be. I've been watching you so them. Can't you see? Can't you see? Can you see that I'm tired of all your half-lives? These games and these wars. played, I will win. And I will show you how the touch of leg against leg explodes. Let me closer, picking up the breadcrumb trail you learn. And I will show you son of adventure, fifth adventure, and I will know that adventure, fifth adventure, and I will show you.
Cold fingers of the moon pierce my forehead, teasing shivers through my migraine brain, heavy as a lump of ice, and in this moment I am hungry, like a cockroach scurrying around for something to feed on. I have to cross the road to avoid the chip shop because I still crave salt like a baby licking a stone. Shirking your grasp, the thought spins over and over in my head as I stare into the blown plaster black holes in the ceiling. Is it home if you can't sleep there? In the half dream, drunkenly swaying, lost to the scarlet fever of Neverland, licking cake batter off spoons, like the child I'm trying to shrink back into being. I knit cradle tales from pink wool and sugar plum fears of stones in the stomachs of wolves. Winding up my mind like a jack-in-the-box, this jolting of jigsaw pieces, bits surface. There's one that crops up again like acne. You are in it, and I'm swollen with your baby. It looks like I've swallowed a beach ball, or maybe my head has shrunk and I've eaten too much. Belly distended like an apple seed has taken root. I'm full to my throat with the cloying cuteness of cupcakes over iced. I'm starving. This creature is eating me up from the inside, scraping me out with a spatula, a mixing bowl mess of uneatenness. Do you think you could ever love it? This blank space, hollow of a human being. This fibbing, feeble thing like an overgrown mouse. Do you think you could love it? Pale and lank and clammy as holding hands with girls that subsist on supplements and the smell of sick in the bathroom. Love it. Taste of iron on the back of my tongue. Love it. Your fingers find themselves pressed into me, kneading bruises into my ribs. I can hear my heart hammering down the door. Let me in. My arms, my mouth, my ribs, my hips are open. I am curled up, trying to keep down the eternities I have swallowed, the holes in my skin, the pores like dot to dots on my nose. Take me home, please. You don't have to hold me. I am slipping away down the plug hole, the cracks in the pavement, the slit by the door. Under the bed, I will be gone before you wake up. Thank you.
It is herein we see the collusion between global accelerationist capitalism and the pursuit of cultural conservatism. An unpleasant combination of a revisionist uchronia and ethno-nationalist thought, a politics that harks back to a more harmonious time of a heterogeneous population. In horrors such as the Windrush deportations, the development of detention centers, and the recent harassment experienced by the Gypsy, Roma and Traveller people in the United Kingdom, we see how the liberal state in all its propinquity for state fascism facilitates and bolsters the likelihood of fascism emerging as a legitimate force. On the point of legitimation of fascistic ideas, it is precisely through the subtle arrogance and misinformedness about how fascism or fascistic forces emerge, where fascism is historically presented to us as rightfully as unfavorable. In many instances, the aesthetic that presupposes fascism is one of authoritarianism and dictatorship. The emergence of fascism is seldom seen to result from legitimate democratic practices in a free society, giving precise ground for which fringe ideas both on economy and culture can rapidly displace moderate political discourses, in turn replacing it with regressive, reactionary and prejudicial views.
How you doing? You alright? You're right, Acid. Alright,
I walked into the office on my first day. No one looked me in the eye. They sat, put their headsets on, and began to work. A man on a separate desk to the emerald insects on standby looked in charge. Hi, it's my first day. What should I do? I said. Give me 5 minutes, he said. I stood there as 5 minutes went by, then 10, then an hour, then a week. I was getting hungry. But I was happy I hadn't been addressed yet. The moments before work are always treasured in my family. Let me swim in this lake for as long as possible as strange men carrying their own snakeskin suits, smoke machines, stare at watches. They're waiting for me to stop paddling and come to the shore. I won't.
We have seen across the planet the hijacking of legitimate democratic practices to undermine the rule of law, the imperatives of the state towards humankind, and the unlawful and undue discrimination of its members of society who at this moment in history are crafting their place within the cultural imaginary of their country. From votes in the House of Commons to executive orders by the President, the offices privy to power, while simultaneously upholding their democratic mandate to their electorate, there has the proliferation of unacceptable fascistic practices that weaken the integrity of the very office leaders of these nations inherit. Fascism as a political practice is as naturally evolutionary as capital itself. Their complementary relationship as a means to foster exponential economic growth at the expense of historically excluded and oppressed peoples can be observed symbiotically when looking at fascism's horrifying ability to reappear after dormant decades of neoliberal moderate discourse.
I'm pacing up and down this house like a fly, looking for a fresh piece to lick or sit on whatever they do. Throw self against glass windows, terrace doors, oven doors, and sharp edges, or unpacked flat plaque MDF furniture, or walls, or even human heads trying to get out or to get in. Skin constricts with agitation and dried out friction. There is a visible pulse under cell's right eye. It is growing, and self is fighting off the urge to claw that vein out with a fingernail or hair-cutting scissors or a butter knife. Imagine the pain spreading like that huge flood in the south that drowned dogs in their kennels. But really the brain would probably tune it out, as it does regularly, with important information such as what the shape of his mouth is and how many helium-filled balloons would it take to lift up an average-sized toddler off the ground. Yellow walls make you insane, apparently. All day I can read books, breathe regularly, wash hands in sink, make breakfast, then second breakfast, then lunch, snack, dinner, wash my socks and pants in a sink, and then hang them out on a washing line spread across grass like a long thin cat, guarded by thick green shrubble. Can't see in nor out, and if you try to get through in these vicious sharp pins, puncture your skin and lodge themselves into the epidermis. I wonder how that would feel. And I have to know an answer so urgently. I just watch my feet move on their own volition, and my twitching eye looks down at my hands reaching forward and gripping branches as if I'm hanging from a steep ledge against soft flesh and soaked skin so thin it makes as well be made of tissue paper. The needles impose tiny fires, almost like electric shocks, but more persistent and unquenched, so I thrust my body forward completely, jousting like a fish in a plastic container, with just a promise of water, not enough to filter through gills anyway. It is stuck, and I'm stuck, and I want to become the shrub. I want to sit in the fence, let my wound scab over and grow into the shrub, and exist without being seen.
I think I'll write, compose, and, in effect, materialise, I suppose, a sequence out of his thoughts. And so I've always thought in a flat and ceaseless kind of way, from the ultra-gooey get-go, about the dense illusion of time, this terse thicket of determination. From that unentered point upon which the capacity for collated consciousness spreads forth in whirring angles, when some sort of object permanence began to click in gradually. was all just the screaming, the loud, garish, flat talk of everything that was not me. But soon, there became a sort of sonar for feeling, a language of chirps, and the light hurt my fresh eyes when they first felt the air, gooey and struggling to part the newborn lids. My early life was a sort of, how can I put this? You can feel your brain growing, feel the web of context extend from the objects placed in front of you, spooling up and unfurling with the life between things and the borders and edges of what contains and defines. A family that, scarred horribly from a lineage of pain, aching and loneliness, schools and schools of boxed off realities, frozen stiff with non-meaning, never taught meaning, dads that leave and mums that forget to forgive, friends that aren't there, that are disfigured and blind with hurt, that scoop out what they can and share in the hurt. People they would lash out at you and cut you, they could scrape your hands and gash you, laugh at you like the mouth of a void and pour thick, sticky emptiness into you until it fills you up. And alone you would bleed, holding your scars and your cuts, and it would sting, and the sound of the pain would echo in your head, and they would shout at you and scratch at your hands and dull you with sharp rocks. You notice here existence making great long imprints on you, or possibly you don't, not to the extent upon which they really lay down these heavy scars like brain upon your hide. Obviously you tremble through a bunch of recycles as your cells regrow and your skin sheds off, fresh, raw eyes, and you become a mound of different people, of course, different with every new entity you collide with, but fundamentally there's some sort of anchor keeping you moving, at least in an illusory way, that's so persuasive that it sticks. Possibly throughout all this there are different lives, choices, arcs of water forestalled, different turns, and a whole new trunk has grown out of the fertilised soil, pushing it past the canopy of you until it grows into a twisted movement. What if it had all happened differently? My family, a nest of support, love, a thing with huge wings, to wrap around moments where you lose faith, a composite thing, formed from the thoughts and suggestions of tribe upon tribe, nestled, fed, taught, shows the borders of the world, the things that change and twist up, the space to learn and grow and watch the complex entanglement of collisions unfold and unfurling and messing interior hunger and passionate scars, dulled and serenely dormant. My peers, my friends and other entities, teaching me from barely born to gain close to death, where the ignorant innocence of youth could triangulate into innocent ignorance of after youth. Friends that demonstrated humanity to me, gave me shapes to inspire toward, to talk within transcendent entanglements of kinship. Friends, encounters of the same stimuli, who would be the ones to share an experience, to cry in and wallow in after cuts and scrapes, after perhaps falling over on the asphalt, damp and wet smelling of petrol, plasters they would give me, make it invisible for a time with scars and scrapes, the grit that sits in the wound's wall. All this, a time for submission, to ride the troughs and grip tight and remember that wish was family. And from there, an adult with purpose, held fast in the collective ripple of our wounds and abrasions that taught us all across time, adjusting our borders of things to live between and with. I would not be scared of falling over, for we all go through it, when we learn that the ground is for us all. But I am old. Before I was less old, so old. If ever there was a before, truly, I could at least feel it in the freshness of things, in the memory of the freshness. But it's only something I think that I put there. I think about this notion of before now as if I wasn't just placed into time this very moment. If I had been teleported to this dimension with all this world of meaning loaded into me. Yes, there's great cosmic powers in fourth dimensions that laugh, I'm sure, at my naivety. In the sand I commit to such a scratch in the curtains. To them, there's not a thing as before, and my before and my after are compressed into such a minute fold that it barely registers as a blip. The fly that flew up on my canvas just now with its hundreds of eyes, I spotted it. It disturbed the sequence I was making, jotting down, trying to constitute a descendants. This fly lives 2 weeks, a bare scratch in my own outstretched extinction. Does it too grow too old and too weary in its ride to fluffy waves of feeling? Or is it time that brings feeling to actuality? Time and the surfaces of things that are not you, collecting great numbers of impressions into your sketched evolution. Would godly things, with infinite years, be so crisscrossed with stars of occasion that they were unseen? Each pocket of lacerations a note of such vast wisdom around fortresses of trauma, fortresses of collective knowledge. A fly flies upon my canvas, a bacterium that swells between its joints, that will kill it and grow from its ceased corpse, but that live out a life, can it be called that? Subdivision upon subdivision into the realm of no life, or the realm where the denizens think of my cosmic angles and incomprehension like I have those seen beyond my borders of scale. I was trying to make sense of it all, turn it into a communicable sequence, but a fly flew over my canvas as I sketched it out. I could barely switch it away, my joints are so weary. The sequence of it all that has left me here now, crude with inferences, crusty with them, marked in the borders that separate me from everything. I am unseparated from everything really, but I am a constitution of duration and collision, hopefully at least. And the great things looming past the fabric of time, were they to look upon this aging, this density of youth, that creates great monuments of feelings, that make me feel like I return endlessly. Now I am an old thing, remembering and continuing to make content for remembrance. Once I had not even the capacity to place things together in communication, words or letters or movements of my limbs, and the world was a thick, bright block of noise. I often wonder about how those fourth-dimensional things out beyond our sphere of comprehension will look upon our little lives, seeing them in their transcendent way, as these static tableaus and tapestries of flat events all happening at once. My death, my birth, my impressions and inferences, all happening in one crisscrossing map. A painting softly moving upon each fragment, instead of flat things squeezed and compressed. from my squeezed out linearity into a hot clump of feeling. These lives, but as for now I am dead matter, a digested swirling portrait of everything that happened ever, to me and everyone else, and I am dust go out beyond that cosmos, to go and how things grow inside my dead tissue, to kick back the cycle in every which direction of that flow. I think I want to put these thoughts into a sequence of some sort.
It's a bit high. I'll tuck into the buffet, dressed in morning black. I'll grab a large sausage roll whilst the mother weeps out the back. A funny first date to suggest, but then again, you always claimed to be fun-loving. Whilst the mother weeps out the back, the birds outside are humming, the wind beneath my wings. The birds outside are smirking, they daren't fly again. Their feet have melted and fused onto the telephone wires. A ringtone travelled up the spire during the eulogy. In unison, they all laughed it off, whilst the mother wept out the back. At least it wasn't the crazy frog, you tutted. Then again, you always claimed that you never tired of hearing that song. Ready or not, I find you behind the curtain. Are you okay? You're crying, I am certain. You said, no, that's just a bit of pre-cum on my cheek. Was that supposed to be a joke? Whilst the mother weeps at the back, I sniff my finger. It smells like yesterday's dinner. A sombre meal alone in my home, buttered toast. Your great aunt tells me I've grown. I'm 25 and I've never met her. I ask, one day, do you want to read poetry in a railway bridge in an industrial northern town? You slap me and say you need time to think and literally hop off on one leg, even though you can walk fine. Whilst the mother weeps at the back, I'm fucking confused. The mother weeps at the back, dressed in a very inoffensive trouser suit. I tell her she looks nice, and she laughs bashfully and says, well, I feel fucking terrible. I chuckle, and then I laugh, and then I guffaw, and then I am howling, and now she is howling. She is screaming in relief, in utter fear. That was the most honest thing I've heard in 10 years. Once we've quietened down, and we notice the extended family gawping in stone-cold silence, we bow our heads in agreement, and I tell you, I don't think this is working. You were too busy painting an upside-down smiley face on a breadstick to hear me leave. Thank you.
Spoken like a man in a preacher's farm. Look like ladies who look alike some. Hit up the heavens with a helpline. How did it happen in the here and now? Here you go, and let me sing so sweet, so soon. Like the line with you. Here you go, watch the cry and cry away. Down in the dirt where the pigs don't pray. Oh, hold me 4, 3, 2, 4, 1. A father, a ghost, and the only son. I was told about the 3 in 1. Never ashamed with the midnight sun. No preaching again. La la la, la la la. Hit up the heavens with a helpline. How did it happen? Here I am. Go tonight, sing so sweet, so soon. Like a lamb, lie with you. Here you go, just a cry and cry away. Down in the dirt where the pigs don't pray. Oh, 4, 3, 2, 4, 1. A father, a ghost, and the only son. I was told about the 3 in 1, but never about shame Thank you. We've been Bishopskin. Bishopskin, that's spelled B-I Bishopskin. Bishopskin. I can't. Thank you.